Head today. So thanks for being with us for this one on one of our very favorite topics and one of eternal importance in PR, the art of pitching the media, how to become a master. I'm Richard Carafel, editor of Bulldog Reporter and the Daily Dog, one of the web's leading sources of PR and marketing communications, news, and insights. Agility PR Solutions offers a world-class suite of PR services, including media database, media monitoring, and measurement tools. You can find out about all of their offerings and how they can put together a package that's just right for you at agilitypr.com. And you can visit agilitypr.com/Bulldog Reporter to check out our homepage with all of our original PR articles and thought leadership pieces. And while you're there, you can sign up to receive the Daily Dog for free. Okay, we are very happy to welcome back today's guest presenter, Brian Kelly. How's it going, Brian?
It's going great.
Well, we are thrilled to have you. Thanks a lot for being here. Brian is the Vice President of PR and Employee Experience at Sage Communications in the Washington, D.C. area. He's a veteran communicator in both the political and public relations fields, having spent the last 16 years leading people and clients through high-impact awareness and thought leadership campaigns that advance business and growth objectives. His expertise has earned him some illustrious industry notoriety. He was named the 2017 Account Supervisor of the Year by PR News and awarded the 2018 Award of Excellence from PRSA. All right, we're about to get started here in just a minute, but let me first tell you that Brian will be responding to your questions following his presentation. So if you have one for him at any point during the hour, just click on the Q&A icon in the top right corner of your screen. Type in your inquiry there. We're going to hold that Q&A until after Brian is finished with his formal presentation, but we will get to as many questions as we can, and we expect to get several today, so make sure you get yours in the queue. All right, and so without further ado, let's get started with today's presentation and learn some great tips for becoming a pitching master. Here's Brian Kelly.
Thanks, Richard. Really looking forward to a great talk today, and really wanted to start out by laying the groundwork for what we can expect. And in developing this discussion, I was really looking at something different than the usual PR pitching presentation that you see time and time again. Really wanted to take this opportunity to dig deeper and really get to the root of what doesn't just make for a successful pitch, but what makes for a successful pitcher. Really looking at the individual and what are the things that we can hone in on and develop and the skill sets we can look at to make sure we're positioning ourselves in the best light to be successful in our pitching. As Richard mentioned, I've been in the business for 16-ish years. I've been a communicator the entire time. And in all that time, going through the training, professional development, and experience, I realized that most of the literature, the panels, and all of the things that you hear around, here's how to be a great pitcher, here's how to really do a great job at pitching, it focuses on the technical aspect. And that's one thing that, I wanted to get past. And what are the things that we can really focus on to, back up from a strategic and a mindset level to ensure our success. It really goes back, I believe, I want to get this right, but to the kind of Confucian statement, give a man a fish, he'll eat for the day. Teach a man to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. So that's kind of where today's presentation is going. And, I put that together with, that in mind. And, my hope is that, everybody is going to be able to come away, at the end of this with more confidence, more motivation, and really more passion for our craft. So, another thing that, setting expectations, the big takeaways I hope everybody's able to really glean from the presentation today. First, being able to create a pitch master mindset. And that's really one of the key elements of the discussion today. It's how do we create the mindset, the approach that will put us in the best position possible to really look at the entire spectrum of what it takes to be a successful pitcher. We're going to look at some do's and don'ts of successful pitchers that really going to highlight and build on the characteristics, approach, and mindset to be successful, and ways that really we can adapt and evolve our approach that are going to set each of you up for success, not just for the next pitch opportunity, but for the next one and the next one after that, all through your career as we continue to develop and grow as PR professionals. Here's one thing that it's not. This isn't going to be a pitching 101. We're not going to really talk about how to create great media lists, draft the perfect pitch, or the best way to really reach out to a reporter. Those are kind of the tactical approaches that I wanted to get past. And when it comes down to it, if we don't have those baseline skill sets, like those are, I'm taking it as an assumption that we all know how to do that. I hope to not disappoint, but we're not really going to have a top 10 tips on pitching, but we're really going to focus on the mindset development that's going to allow each of you to really build, create, and execute successfully across anything we do when it comes to pitching and storytelling in our profession. So this is, I also, when I put this together and I wanted to put this in here, but who can benefit from this? And this really kind of the pitch master process and mindset, it benefits everybody, no matter what stage in your career you are. If you're a beginner, it's really going to be key in helping you build and create and develop your skill sets and really help you stand out and build your reputation, as a killer PR practitioner. For managers and mid-tier, for kind of mid-tier in our career, we're looking at to develop and instill these aspects and getting a grasp on kind of helping our teams develop these mindsets and really imparting the skills and the confidence and guidance. And when it comes down to it, ways that we can take some of these aspects and mentor the next generation of PR stars at each of your respective organizations, and even with leadership and more of the senior management level. This is going to be hopefully helpful in developing and maintaining cultures in your organizations that really foster this type of learning and development to ensure you're really empowering your staff to excel at their jobs and excel for your clients. So we can kind of jump right into it now, but the art of pitching and really creating a pitch master mindset. As a manager, supervisor, trainer, mentor, all the things that have kind of come along with the experience of being in this industry for a decade and a half, as much as it pains me to say that. The one thing that I have found that is most empowering that we can give others and really instill in our colleagues and peers as well as our leaders, but is really to help them develop, and I say the right mindset, but when it comes down to it, it's the mindset to succeed no matter what you're going to do. And if you have the right mindset, there's really nothing you can't be successful at. It's from being resilient, learning, having a passion, having the motivation. All of those things come from really positioning yourself in a way that opens up, your mind and learning capabilities to succeed. And, when it comes down to it, whether it's, anything at all, pitching is no different when it comes to this successful mindset aspect. Because, we're constantly creating, we're adapting, we're involving our approaches, our strategy, our execution to fit within kind of, playing within the rules of the game, so to speak, with any opportunity. And that's really when it gets into pitching comes out and almost reveals itself to be an art form. And to be successful, you need to have the right approach, the right attitude, and mindset, to be able to be successful, not just today, but to use our experiences and to be able to sustain and build upon those to make ourselves better. And, I'll have to say in the 16, 17 years I've been doing this, it's taken me a good portion of that to really figure that out. And, we can be good at the tactics of pitching. We can put together great media lists. We can have, an absolute awesome pitch. But, if we're not looking at the big picture of everything that is entailed within kind of the art of pitching, we're not going to be able to sustain our success. And that's one of the things that I really wanted to, and you'll probably hear me harp upon it, time and time again throughout this presentation. But, those are the things that are going to be important for success as a professional, success for our clients, and success for us personally. So, as PR practitioners, we live and die on our ability to pitch. And by pitching, we're storytellers at heart. And being able to tell our clients' stories is what sets all of us apart from, kind of the regular Joes out on the street. But no matter how great the story is, you have to be able to relate, and you have to be able to really, keep that big picture thinking, because, no matter your expertise, you have to be better than just good at pitching. So, really looking at it from, pitching perspective, we're looking at, our approach, the delivery, securing the hit, all of these things, these skills, they're not static. If you want to be successful, you have to be able to evolve and adapt. You have to be flexible and have a bit of fluidity and be able to, as my father loved to say, you got to be able to roll with the punches. And it's these keys and this adaptability and really being able to keep an open and adaptive and evolving mindset that really, that's what makes pitching and what we do, I think, more of an art form than anything else. So when we talk about really developing the pitch master mindset, I wanted to use art, as a symbolic representation of really, what we try to do, here at Sage, and really what I think we should all try to do in improving ourselves as, PR practitioners. But if you look at art, you can give anybody a pencil or a Sharpie, as you can see there on the left, and anybody can draw a picture. I hope you like my picture of a horse there. I created that. I think it was in the 11 o'clock at night, a couple of days ago, as I was putting this together. But it really takes a true artist, someone who's dedicated to their craft, who's going to have the commitment to keep training, keep learning, keep developing their skills, and that's what's going to make you a master artist, so to speak, when it comes to pitching. When you look at these two pictures and think about your approach to pitching today, would you say it's more on the stick course, or on Napoleon crossing the Alps? And we always want to be working towards the right. We always want to be helping develop, helping create, helping better what we do, and really improving ourselves as storytellers in a way that not just allows us to tell a good story, but tell it in a way that's engaging and people are going to want to listen. And by people, we're talking about reporters and their audiences. So, as we kind of move on from that and we talk about, the mindset, but what's the process for, creating this mindset? And, I again want to stress that it's putting ourselves, in a space where, we're looking at the long game. We don't want to be kind of that instantaneous gratification when it comes to pitching. And, that's one of these, all these top tips, best practices for pitching that you see. I'm not saying they're wrong, but they're kind of wrong. Because, I say that because each of those tips that you hear, they're right for certain situations. But there's no top 10 list. There's no best practices. There's no magic document out there that is going to be, is going to guide you to have repeatable success when it comes to pitching. And what I've found, over the years and really, helping, I think moving from, learning to a learning and teaching position in my career, that, I've found that, the big three things when it comes to the art of PR, it's relationships, it's reputation, and it's mindset. If you can have those three things set in the right way, you can be successful. And this is a direct correlation to pitching that that I really want to impart on everyone today. Because at the end of the day, there's no one right way to pitch. Now, there's plenty of wrong ways to do it, but there's no one right way for the individual opportunity, as well as for each of you. So, this would be, I would expect, we have almost, I see about 200 people on the call right now. If we asked each of you, what your approach would be, I would hopefully get 200 separate answers. It's kind of the same when you look at, if, you hear, all the panels, and they'll have 2 or 3 reporters on it, and they'll ask them, what's the best way to pitch a reporter? And the reporters will each have a different answer, which, the answers aren't wrong because they're right for that specific reporter, but it's not going to be right for everybody. If you have 100 reporters and ask them that question, you will definitely get 100 different answers. So how do we stay ahead of that? How do we really, maintain, our ability to operate successfully in this space while, being able to hone in, customize, and adapt how we are telling our stories, how we are pitching to the reporters to put ourselves and our clients in the best position to get that hit, to secure that hit, that great interview, that great coverage in a top tier outlet. How do we stay on top of that? And that's one of the things that over the years I've kind of come up with I call it almost a timeline when we're looking at it. And I'll admit to you guys, when I was putting this together, this presentation, it actually took me a little while to do, because I can sit and talk about pitching and having the right mindset and the flow of creativity and looking at opportunities. I can talk about that for hours, but really trying to get it down into a presentation is sometimes hard, because it's, like I said before, it's not a static definition. It's really, for lack of a better term, it's a maintaining a situational mindset to be able to see opportunities and be ready to take advantage of them when they pop up. But with all of that said, I put together a little bit of a timeline here about really how, here at Sage, that we try to approach our pitch process. But I would say at the same time, it's not a tactical or really a hard strategic process. It is more about taking advantage of opportunities and doing the research and development beforehand. So, it gives you the vision to see where stories are going, to see where reporters are going, and being able to connect the dots between them to take advantage of really, the needs, of your client, as well as the needs of reporters, and being able to match those up. And at the end of the day, really coming up with a great storyline that will hopefully, more times than not, result in success. So, here's a quick, and this is when I'm looking at any type of opportunity. Here's what I like to keep in mind, and this goes back to doing kind of the front-loaded work that puts you in a position to have the knowledge to really see the entire landscape of the pitch process. So we start at the beginning. We have KYR. That's a little term that I like to use, but that is know your reporter. That is knowing not just their beat and what they write about, but it's actually trying to dig down as much as possible to know them. How does each reporter like to be pitched? That's great, but it's how can you make a connection with them? It's really digging in deep, doing the research, reaching out, networking, making the connection with the reporters that, obviously you're hoping that is going to cover your story. Now, if you have a broad scoped, client issues and you have, 50, 100 targeted reporters, you're not going to be able to do that with everyone. Absolutely not. But there are aspects and things you can do with each of those reporters, and we'll actually dive into a few of those in a little bit, to give you a better idea for each of them. That's going to help you customize your approach. Knowledge development. This is a really kind of broad range, and there's a lot of things that happen here. And knowledge development, that is not just knowing your client's messaging, not knowing, their product or their technology or their service. But it's really digging deeper, it's digging past that, and it's getting that situational awareness and helping you develop that situational awareness of the entire kind of community, conversations, news, everything that's going on that would have any type of effect on how you tell the client story. This can be media monitoring. It's doing subject matter expert downloads on a regular basis. But it's also a lot of really, impersonal conversations that you might have with clients, with industry insiders. It's really just making yourself as educated as possible to be able to do our jobs in a professional and expert level. Now, do you have to be kind of a master's or PhD level in what your clients do? Absolutely not. But you do need to be able to at least have a understanding in a way that you can I say, with my clients, if I can't describe it to my grandma, what they do, I need to find out more. So, and then, we talk about targeting reporters and audience, kind of the part of the process. No way you're going to be able to get around that. Developing the angle, doing the outreach, and, here's where we have the pitch and the follow-up. All of these things kind of, from developing your mindset in the beginning and really, opening yourself up and giving yourself the knowledge and the confidence, and that's an important thing, with you learning and becoming more comfortable with what your clients do, but not just with what our clients do, but with the processes and procedures that we have. Every organization is a little bit different, but really becoming confident and comfortable with those in a quick process, in a quick way, is going to set you up for success with each of these following aspects of the pitch process. So, as we really, think about that process, how do we develop, how do we put ourselves, from a mindset way, what do we do? How do we think about it? And, I've talked about it and said it a few times, but it's going to be situational, which, you're going to have to discover your own way. This is really looking at what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses as a professional. You need to be, really aware of, where you can excel, what you need to work on, and that's going to help you figure out the best way to approach each opportunity. As we talk about opportunity, developing this process, you always want to be looking for opportunities. When I talk about, always be looking for opportunities to find that newsworthy nugget. Look for something that, a reporter might be interested that you were, talking with. And these don't just come out from, the client, missives or, this is our scope of work. Here's what we're going to do for the client. Most of the time, you're going to find opportunities in, the conversations you have with your client, the small talk before a meeting, while you're on a call. When they're telling you about, hey, we're working on this thing, so-and-so just did a new training, we're really excited about X, Y, and Z, you're going to be able to find really newsworthy opportunities in all of what most folks would consider the peripheral aspects of our interactions, with our client. But that's, not the only way. It's news monitoring. It's, we look for breaking news, but we also look for industry news. Look for what clients are or competitors are talking about. And don't just look at, if you see a competitor story, don't just look at what the reporter covered, but take a deeper look into it. Look at how, the competitors, how they're coming across in the story. And put yourself in a position that if you were, that person's PR team, how would you do it? What would you have done to get them this story? And that's going to really, I think, open up a lot of eyes in getting the gears turning on how you can do the same thing for your clients. Another part of the process is, call it the search for clarity. So, this is important because, with 24-hour news, you're going to be, drinking from a fire hose when it comes to information for a lot of things. It's important for, both your personal success as well as your team's success, to be able to take a step back at times, look at the big picture, and make sure that, you're really maintaining the approach and strategy that is pushing the needle for your client. This also comes into play a lot, I think, across, ever since I've been in PR, something happens, news breaks, big news story. Everybody's freaking out because they're, everybody's trying to get their clients in, talk to the reporter, and going crazy. Now, I'm not saying that you take a step back and wait, because time is always going to be of the essence. But you always want to keep a clear mind, and that'll really, as long as you can maintain that focus on the big picture, even in times of stress, quick movement, having that clarity is really going to position you to keep the team on track, keep yourself on track, and keep the client on track. Next, this is vitally important. You got to do the upfront work. When you talk about pitching, a lot of people are like, okay, we got this story. This is, the client just came out with a new product or a new service. So we need to put together a pitch, get it out. And, I see a lot of people kind of approaching it as, taking the spaghetti, throwing it against the wall and see what sticks. So, that's kind of taking only a partial view at what it takes to be a successful pitcher. You really have to do that upfront work that we're talking about. It's reaching out to the reporters. It's getting smart on the issues, the industry, what people are talking about, because you want to make sure that with the story you're telling, that people are going to be listening. And you can't, you never want to enter into a situation where you're just taking a chance, you're hoping people, hey, it seems like a good story, I hope people are going to like it. Do that research, get in there and get that clarity and get that knowledge and comfort and confidence that your story is going to hit and people are going to be interested in it. Talk about doing the upfront work. Well, if you do that, that allows you the opportunity to work backwards from success. What does that mean? Exactly what it entails. Think about the end goal. What does success look like? What's the target? What's the story? Who's the spokesperson? How are you positioning what they say? How are you placing the product? So once you do that, then you can really just work backwards there. What is it going to take to get there? What do you need to do? The step before and the step before that. And if you can work backwards, if you can envision success, you can work backwards and get your plan into place. Next we've said this a few times, but stay fluid and flexible. Nothing will make you fail faster than having a unbending plan. If you can't adapt and evolve with what you're doing, then you are destined to fail, because as we know, we play with the news cycle. That's our ball game, and we have to be able to adapt. We have to be able to evolve what we're doing. We have to be able to pivot on a moment's notice with our outreach, with our pitch, with expanding, our media list, whatever it may be. We have to be able to really, stay fluid and flexible and keep moving forward. And finally, part of the process, and not a lot of people, like to prepare for this, but you got to be prepared to fail. You got to be ready, because no matter what you do, there is no 100% success rate in pitching. No 100% success rate in PR. So you can have the best pitch, the best byline, the best guest article that you think is fantastic. It is perfect for a reporter, perfect for an outlet, perfect for all the situations and world events that are going on. And you pitch it, and they say no, or hell no, or no answer at all. Which that's kind of the also be prepared to fail, be prepared for frustration. But in really keeping this mindset and looking at all these things, if you're staying fluid, you're staying flexible, the failure's coming, or you've actually, executed everything and failed, you have plan B. And one of the things that in thinking about kind of this pitchmaster mindset is if you're doing these things and you're putting yourself in the right mindset and you're doing the upfront work, looking for the opportunities, you're doing all these things, plan B will be obvious. You're not going to have to go back to the drawing board, because you're going to be positioned to adjust, whether it be after a failure, if you kind of see, things aren't going the way that they should beforehand, you're going to have other opportunities, because, a story, never stand, a stool can't stand on just one leg. So, there's going to be multiple iterations of what you can do, the adjustments you can make to kind of move the ball forward, not just for your pitching effort, but for your team as well. So, and we look at, from this pitch master process, and we talk about the big picture. And, we look at the things that we want to, this whole process, it really allows you to see the entire field of play. This actually allows us to do, as PR professionals, so much more than, just provide media support for our clients, right? We really want to, this gives you the power to adapt, control, and evolve at each step. At each of these steps, you can make sure that you're staying on the best path forward. And really, it comes down to, as long as you can maintain that view of the big picture, you're going to do everything, or it's going to give you the opportunity to do everything possible to put you in the best position for success. So next up, we want to talk about, from the art of pitching, some of the do's and don'ts of successful pitchers. And really, this is a big focus because, we're focused on the pitcher and not the pitching process. So this is going to be the characteristics that are going to help set you apart from the field. Again, I really want to just, focus on emphasize the focus is on the individual here. And it's on, the individual growth and development, not on the actual tactics itself. And which will be really important as hopefully each of you come away from this presentation, because it's going to be an important construct to remember when either working on developing yourself or teaching others. So successful pitchers, what are some of their characteristics? What are some of their skill sets? And, they're always adapting and evolving. I think you've heard me say adapting and evolving multiple times. They're always in the loop. They're always up on the latest news. They're always up on, what the client's doing, what the competitors are doing, what's happening in the industry. They know how to show and earn respect. And this isn't just one of those, things that comes with experience. You don't need to be in the business for 10 years to earn respect or to show respect for that matter. But, what successful pitchers are able to do is showcase their ability, not just to pitch, not just to get the story across, not just to get success, not just to get hits, but to be a valuable member of the team that's providing insight, as well as really being a role model for others to follow. And that gets into some of the other aspects of really successful pitchers that have, the pitch master mindset, but they know how to connect. They know how to connect with their colleagues. They know how to connect with reporters. They know how to connect with clients. And that also, you don't have to be a master networker to know how to sit down across from a client or a colleague, have a authentic conversation that shows that you are engaged and you are there to provide guidance and support. I'll say some of our best folks at the agency I work for, this is one of their key sets. They know how to connect. We have folks that are early 20s that I have no problem sitting down in front of a client and have them talk about what's going on in the news and get into strategic insight and opportunity on how we can position them. Just because they have done the work. They know they have done that front end work that gives them not just the skills to be in that position, but the confidence as well. Good pitchers, they work smarter, not harder. So, what do I mean by that? It's, what kind of tools are you using? What are you really doing, to look at the entire process and where you find inefficiencies and how you make your approach. So I put in this picture here 2 things, and I'm sure if you're not using them, you need to be. But the first, it's coschedule.com. I would strongly suggest folks use that. It checks your subject lines. And, that's one of the things that we use that helps, really make sure you have engaging subject lines. And that's kind of getting into, I think some tactical aspects. But, that really goes back to the working smarter, not harder, as well as grammarly. Yeah, we should all be excellent editors. No grammatical errors, but it never hurts to use technology to help ensure that we're getting across our story in a clean and concise way. We talked about this, but good pitchers, they know their stuff. Whether it be who they're reaching out to, why they're reaching out to them, what the story is going to be. They know because they've done, like we said before, they've done their homework and they live and breathe, this mindset. I'm not saying you have to live and breathe PR, but it's the mindset. It's really looking for opportunities and being a doer in what we do. And we touched on these two things, but being self-aware, being able to read a room, being able to read how you come across, your strengths and weaknesses, allows you to develop as a professional and personally as well. But that's, knowing your weaknesses, that's what you got to work on. Knowing your strengths, where can I really excel? As well as take the initiative. That's the kind of thing I tell when people come to me and they ask, what should I do? How far should I go? What are the parameters for this? I'll say this, and I hope some of my colleagues are listening. I hate that question because I tell them, go until you're told to stop. And with that aspect, and I think that approach to things, that'll take folks a lot further than you think. So, as we said, successful pitchers. What are the pitchers that aren't so successful? What do they do, and what are things that we can look at in ourselves to avoid to ensure we don't get in there? But biggest thing, waste time. You don't want to waste your colleagues' time, you don't want to waste your client's time, and you sure as heck don't want to waste the reporter's time. There's no faster way to kill your reputation with the reporter than by sending them pitches that don't make sense, don't hit on their beat, getting them on the phone and basically not knowing what you're going to talk about, just wasting their time, wasting your time. It's a killer in our industry. Somebody who doesn't check their spelling, doesn't have good grammar, ain't got good grammar, whatever you want to say, but it's, a lot of times our initial introductions, our first impressions to folks are through what we write. We make sure that's on point. You don't know the reporter. You just put together a big media list and shoot the pitch out. Throwing spaghetti at the wall. That's not going to help you out. Another thing, if you're timid, unprepared, or lacking confidence, what that shows folks is, being unprepared, like you haven't done the front end work, you haven't learned, you haven't, educated yourself. One of the phrases, and I'm sure I learned this early on in PR, but, if anything, we're masters at getting smart fast on our client issues and all the things we're talking about. You need to make sure you keep that aspect going throughout your career and in everything you do. Another thing, you can do too much. So, you can follow up excessively, send too many pitches, have a pitch that is too long, one that doesn't match up with what the reporter's writing on for that week, day, or month. You can't be everything to everyone. You don't want to do, too much in the process. It's, a fine kind of tightrope that we walk that, you want to make sure that, you keep that happy medium. And, we kind of talked about being timid and unprepared. But, one of the worst things you can do when the stuff hits the fan is panic. Because panicking shows, again, you don't have control of the situation. And that's something from a pitching perspective, reaching out to the media, any type of crisis communications, you never panic. You need to be the stabilizing force in what's going on. As well as, being an unsuccessful pitcher, you take failure personally. We're going to fail. The best thing we can do is learn from those failures and move on and make ourselves better. Don't take it personally, because if you take failure personally in this business, you're not going to last very long. So, and really looking at questions here are questions I always ask myself when approaching any situation, waking up in the morning, whatever it's going to be. But, these are things, and really, I'll go through these questions quickly, but, ask them of yourself and what the answers are and what it means to you for each one. But, how will I stand out? Is there a story here? Am I doing something I can teach to others? Am I providing value? Am I connecting the dots? And finally, this is the one, I ask folks, I think, on a regular basis, no matter what, did you do your best? If you can say you did your best, win, lose, or draw, you're not going to hang your head. So, and again, these are the questions that, answers are going to be different for everyone, but these are the types of really of almost self-psycho analysis that the answers are going to help put you in the best position to be a fantastic pitcher as well as a fantastic PR practitioner. So, if you haven't really guessed yet, really the basis for the entire Pitchmaster mindset is really maintaining a situational approach. Each opportunity is going to be different. The strategy is going to be different. Execution is going to be different. But what remains the same is going to be your mindset. It's going to be the way you, from both a character and thought process, how you approach each of these situations. So, how do you set yourself up for success to really kind of get the gears going to start, growing and developing this type of mindset? And at the beginning, I told you this really isn't a top 10 list on tactics, but I'm kind of going to go back on that just a tad. But here are a few things that you can do to really help you on your way to develop your own Pitchmaster mindset. Not tactically, but really developing that mindset. So, we talked about know your reporter. And this is one of the most important things you can do that will set the foundation for your success as a pitcher. The biggest thing that you want to do, you want to be able to connect with reporters, not just on a professional pitching basis. If there are any way, that you can, connect more on a personal face-to-face level with reporters, that just sets you above and helps you stand out with them on pitches and anything else. So one of the things that I like to do and really push everybody on my team is, take a reporter to coffee. Call them up. If they have, 15, 20 minutes, you'll take them out to coffee, sit down, you just want to talk, see what they're working on, see what, they're thinking, what they're seeing in the industry. And maybe, and I say maybe, you talk about some of your clients. These are ways that you want to hear from the reporter what they're, like I said, are they getting pushed by their boss to come up with 3 stories a month on XYZ, which just so happens to be kind of your client's sweet spot? That's an opportunity. Also, it gives you the chance to ask them, what's the best way, if my client has some news, what's the best way to reach out to you? This, again, helps you individualize your responses to these reporters. One of the things, we're not always in the same cities as our key reporters, so look for other opportunities to meet up with them. If you go to a trade show and conference and they're there, take them out for lunch. Because I'll tell you this, reporters will never pass up a free meal, guaranteed. And at the end of the day, that's $10 for coffee or $20, $30 for lunch. That investment will pay off in spades for you. One of the great things, and I go back to continuing to learn, is one of my colleagues told me this the other day, but be a fanboy or be a fangirl. You see a great story, send them a note and actually start it with, hey, fan mail. Saw your article, thought it was fantastic. And then, that is a way to, you don't ask them for anything. That's a way for you just to make that connection and find that way to connect. And once you establish that relationship, you don't want to ease up. And as long as you can set up these types of relationships, find a way to connect, I'll let you in on this. It'll probably, result in just more drunk reporters. But we host a reporter happy hour twice a year. Invite, the major reporters that we work with, take them out, a couple hours, drinks on us. And I'll say that has actually been, one of the most productive events that we have in connecting everybody on our team with the reporters they work with on a weekly or daily basis. So, and then, finally really getting into mastering the mindset. Always keep the big picture in mind. Always look at everything, do the front end work backwards from success. Keep the entire picture, people, players, storyline in line. And, that will really help you maintain success. You always want to protect and build your reputation. This is one of the things that is key to our success as pitchers, to protect your reputation, because that's what's going to get your foot in the door with the reporters more often than not. Get advice from your fellow colleagues. Go read those top 10 tips on best PR pitch practices, but don't follow it blindly. Find your own way. Also, find a mentor. Find someone you respect that you see doing it right that you want to emulate. And I think the final one's, maintain your situational mindset. Keep asking yourself, how are we going to be successful today? And finally, keep honing your skills. So I believe that is the end for me. We have a Q&A section coming up, but Richard, I think you have a little bit to say. I look forward to everybody's Q&A, so please stay on and look forward to chatting with you.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Good stuff there. Boy, and a great job articulating some very elusive points, because once you rise above a certain level of tactics, things are very situational. You're entering some wide open water there, and it's hard to find some universal points to pull it all together. I think you did a really good job of doing that, so thank you. Yes, indeed, we are going to get to our Q&A here shortly. We'll have just a few minutes for that, but let me remind you, if you do have a question, you can load it into the queue now by clicking on the Q&A icon and typing your question in there, and send to all presenters, so we'll see them. But first, we're going to hear from Brent at Agility PR Solutions, who has some news about the findings from G2 Crowd's latest software and services report. Hi, Brent.
Hey, Richard, and thanks, Brian, for that great presentation. So yeah, I just wanted to share another resource that our webinar attendees can use, but all these great tips to use. So once you've gotten your perfect pitch crafted, you'll want to make sure it's reaching the right media contacts and influencers. So how do you find and pitch the best media to the best media contacts? If you're like most PR professionals, you're probably using a database to help you find journalists. There are a lot of options, so it can be overwhelming to determine which platform works best for your needs, and difficult to get information on things like data quality, support, and ease of use from salespeople on websites. So imagine if you could ask other PR and communications pros and hear the good and bad right from them. Well, now you can. G2 Crowd has gathered reviews from thousands of PR and communications pros and summarized this feedback into a comparison report. And the Media and Influencer Targeting Software Spring Report gives an unbiased, data-driven approach to evaluating or reevaluating a media outreach program. See who's gaining the most momentum from their offerings while maintaining a high level of customer satisfaction, and how leading tools in the space compare on a wide variety of factors, and who's leading the charge in terms of client satisfaction. We'll send an exclusive offer to download this report, and actually the first 50 requesters will get a printed copy in the mail for free. That's all from me. Thanks for your time.
All right. Thank you, Brent. And that's good advice there. Database, always a good tool. All right, let's get right to this Q&A. We have just a few minutes here, so we're going to try to get to as many of these questions as we can. let's get started, Brian. And here's a good one right off the bat. When it comes to knowing your reporter in order to relate, where do you draw the line at personal information from social media? Knowing your reporter is so important, but you don't want to get too personal with them. Things like if they have a dog or where they went to college, that kind of thing. Where do you draw that line?
So, that's something that you're going to have to play on a case-by-case basis. I'll use an example of, a reporter that, we had worked with, on a regular basis here. And one of my colleagues, actually, we went to the same school. I went to WVU, and she went to WVU as well. He found that on, social media and actually, reached out. And I think he just ended an email with, "Let's go Mountaineers," our mascot. And what was once a kind of difficult, reporter to get a hold of, all of a sudden, they went out, had coffee after that, and, were able to, really develop, I think, a really great working relationship after that. You're going to have to, if you're able to connect with it, you don't want to be creepy, but, if they have a dog, maybe you just ask, like, "Oh, hey, do you have any pets?" Like, "Oh, I have a pet too." So it's how, what's the way that you can connect with the information, not just, "Hey, I, stalked you on Facebook, and I know you went on, vacation last week to Hawaii. How was it?" That's a little bit creepy. But, as long as you can keep it light and you have a connection with whatever you're talking about, I say go for it.
That's good advice. All right, good. Yeah, definitely case by case. But you kind of got to feel that situation out a little bit. I agree. All right, thank you, Brian. And thank you, Johanna, for that question. Here's another one from Carrie, and this is also an excellent question and definitely relative to this topic. They just started working with a new client, and that means contacting a new queue of industry beat contacts. And Carrie says, "I have no prior relationship with these target journalists, and I'm finding it very difficult to break through. None of these are in my city." Worst case scenario in a lot of ways here. No responses to my emails. Any suggestions on how to get their attention? And how many times should I email them before I, start looking like a pest?
Well, that's, I've found, we've run into that situation as well. It's, you got to start out small. And, if it's two beat reporters at a larger publication that you're trying to break in with a new client, maybe not start out with those. Maybe go for some smaller trade publications. Show the ability of your client to be a source. Then after that, call and see if you can just set up a introductory call or, just a quick download to, get their take on what's happening in the industry. If, it's not an interview, and, we refer to these kind of as, backgrounders. But it's a way to, any way you can connect the reporter with your client is going to be key, but you have to be able to show that value. So it's, I don't know what the, your client or industry is, but it's what is the value that they're going to bring to that reporter. It's not talking about their company, but it's going to give them further insight into the industry and the trends and the happenings of what's going on.
That's good way to put that. You could definitely be a resource to reporters beyond just sending them pitches. So sometimes that's a good way to start. Okay. Thank you, Brian. And thank you, Carrie, for that question. And good luck with your situation there. All right, let's go on to Deborah's question here. And this is a timely one. Any specific tips in a landscape where the media newsroom cuts continue? Having to do more with fewer reporters, their time is more precious. How does that change your approach, Brian?
Actually, you know what? It doesn't. It makes it more important. It makes it more important with fewer reporters covering more, beats, so to speak, less time, to actually dig in deeper into specific, industry or analysis or so forth. what's the opportunity in that? The challenge is obviously they have less time, but how can you position both yourself and your clients as those sources, as, those resources for reporters to look to that are going to give them the information they need? And, how do you position it into which you're bringing it to them, right? You're helping educate the reporter on what's going on. And, those are ways that, those are things that you really find out, when we talk about that front end work, talking to reporters on a personal level, which should help define specific opportunities that you can, look for to help fit in. So, we've had reporters that, all of a sudden they, move publications and they're covering, let's say, cybersecurity, which they've never covered before. That's an opportunity if I have a cybersecurity client to get them in and let's talk about the trends. Let's talk about what's happening in the industry. And, more likely than not, a reporter is going to appreciate that because you're giving them, you're educating them. You're not, really looking for that immediate payback. And this is what we're talking about, playing that long game. Set yourself up as a resource, help educate that reporter and make their jobs a little bit easier. And when they're writing a story, they're going to come to you first.
There you go. Good answer and great advice there. I think it's definitely the case in this shrinking media landscape that reporters have never been able to use quality PR as much as they can now. So that's good. Thank you, Brian, and thank you, Deborah, for that question. All right, we're going to keep rolling here. We just have a couple more minutes, but this is a very good question from Ryan here. He asks, any pointers for building a new brand in a media landscape where, quote, new products or, quote, new brand just aren't exciting anymore? For example, you increasingly see brands inserting themselves into social issues and taking stands on those kind of topics. Does this help you with your reporter relations or with your pitch?
It depends on who you're going after. And, with brands taking stances on social issues, one of the things you have to look at is how does that affect, the audience you're going after, not just the reporters. You have to kind of take that, view past, just reporters. And, when it comes down to it, a lot of times with, organizations taking social stands, as long as it's, you have to take that into account when trying to include that in your outreach, because while it might seem good and a reporter might like it, if, what does the greater public think about those stances? And, if you get a situation, let's say like maybe like, gun rights that, tends to be, 40-60 split, 50-50 split, whatever it might be, are you positioning and using that stance that the company's taken to position them with their customer base? So, I would say it's, again, situational. You have to really look at the big picture and think about how really talking about that and bringing attention to what organizations are doing from a social stance, how that's going to affect, their position that, with their customers that could potentially affect their bottom line. So, I would, more likely than not kind of err on the side of caution in those aspects. But, again, it depends on the industry and the aptitude of the audiences for whatever issues you're playing with.
Right. That's good advice. All right. Good. Thanks, Brian. And thank you, Teresa, or rather Ryan, for that question. And we're going to keep rolling here with just this one last question. That's all we have time for, even though there's several others in the queue. So sorry we weren't able to get to everyone's. But this is an interesting one from Nicola. And obviously, in the current media landscape, you've got the content marketing division of a lot of outlets now where there is money being exchanged for coverage or backlinks and that kind of thing. And so Nicola wants to know if she's seen a rise in outlets asking for payments to cover stories or run features. How should you deal with that as a PR person, not only with the media outlet, but also with your clients?
So that is a great question. We've definitely been seeing a lot of that lately. The best advice I can, give is, keep those, if you decide to go down the pay-for-play route, which, there are some opportunities out there that can be beneficial. But you want to make sure that when you're discussing it with your client, that you're maintaining separation. You have a clear line between the earned media efforts and really showcasing to the client the value of that earned media, as opposed, to the paid aspect of it, which, you always want to maintain and really showcase, because at the end of the day, earned media is always more valuable than paid.
There you go. I agree with that. Go ahead.
That's just, you have to keep that clear with the client, and then, just move ahead cautiously, and as long as you have that dividing line, you should be good to go.
All right, good. That's good advice. That's a great way to approach that. Thank you, Brian, and thank you, Nicola, for that question. Very interesting one. Okay, and it looks like we have indeed reached the end of the hour, an hour plus, in fact, today. So I want to thank Brian Kelly for all that insightful commentary, and for the people whose questions we weren't able to get to, sorry about that. As you can see on the screen, Brian has given his contact information there, and so you can feel free to reach out to him directly if you have a question, and as his time permits, I'm sure he'd be happy to respond as he's able to do. So thanks everyone for all the questions and for all the interest today. Let me remind you that you'll be receiving a recording of this event to share and re-listen, and lots to re-listen to here within the next 48 hours. And that this webinar series is brought to you by Agility PR Solutions, and you can check out their services at agilitypr.com. And I'll tell you quickly, we have another great presentation coming up in May where we'll welcome Jeannie Dietrich, the CEO of Arment Dietrich in Chicago and very popular blogger with Spin Sucks, among other influential roles, and who will be telling us about the convergence concept, which is how other communications disciplines impact or combine with PR to best serve clients. So very important insights in this integrated age there. That event is scheduled for June 19th, kind of a mid-month event this time at 1 p.m. Eastern, unlike most of our noon events. So set your calendars now, and more details will be released soon, so watch your emails and social media. And we look forward to getting together again then. So thanks again to Brian Kelly, and thanks to everyone for listening, and have a great day.